All right. So we want to start walking through the projects for Module 4 of the Hyper-V projects. I'll start here with hands-on project 13, Hyper-V installation. We want to notate here that we need to bring on a line and format 256 gigabyte hard drive that's attached to your HPV server. And then also to notate that if the instructions ask for 20 a 20 gigabyte partition, then you create a 10 gigabyte partition. We just want to make sure that we're not overdoing it from a size perspective and using up resources. So over here on the left, I've got my HPV server. You can see that here, HPV 1-2. And in order to bring online the drive, we need to go to disk management. So I'm just going to use the search. If you start typing disk management, you'll get this create and format hard disk partitions. That's disk management. And you can see here we've got our primary 100 gigabyte drive, and then we have the secondary 250 gigabyte drive. If we right mouse click on the second drive, we can bring it online. And if we right mouse click again, we can initialize the disk. Let's go ahead and make it a GPT. Click OK. And then we can right mouse click here, and we're just going to create one big simple volume. So new simple volume. And we'll use up all of the available disk space. Sign it F drive is fine. And we want to call this, you can leave it as new volume, but I'm going to call it virtual machines just so we know what it is. Virtual machine drive, let's call it that. Right, so that may be too long, actually, I'm wondering. Okay, looks like it's going to be fine. So we're going to go virtual machine drive. Okay. So, and now we have a big basic online partition F drive. So then that's completed what we need to happen here on the drive here. I'm wondering if we should, I'm going to convert it to dynamic just because before we even get started. Let's treat this as a dynamic drive, and it's a simple volume still. So, all right, that may give us some flexibility later on. I don't know that it's necessary, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, and then the next thing we need to do, right, then is to set up the installation of Hyper-V. So to do that, we're going to jump over to Cengage, and we're going to look at the hands-on projects 3.1. That's the Hyper-V installation. And I do want to point this out, like every time, we have this, you log in with administrator and secret 555, right? We've already logged into our server. You use your own username and password. So these, unless it's having you create a new one, don't worry about kind of following that section. So like, number one, we can get rid of. And then we're going to go right to number 2. Which is going into Windows Server Manager. So now that we've got the disk management handled, I'm going to go ahead and close that. We're going to go to local server, right? So we can see our local computer, and then we need to go to manage, add rules and features. I'm going to go ahead and skip this page by default. Click next, right? It's going to be a role-based installation. We're going to click next. We're going to select the server from the pool. It's already selected. It's the only server that this server manager can manage at this point in time. So we're going to click next. And then we need to select Hyper-V, right? So click on Hyper-V. It wants to add these other features, remote server admin tools, role, right? Hyper-V management tools, modules, GUI management tools. We want all of that stuff there. So we're going to click on add features. That was step 5. Okay. There is a little note here about if your computer doesn't support virtualization. HPV is the only box that we've set up to allow sub virtualization. So it's virtualization inside of virtualization. So you shouldn't have any problems with that. If for some reason you get some kind of error, sorry, let me know, and we'll get that configuration changed. Okay, so we've got Hyper-V selected, and we're good to go there. We're going to click next. We're not going to select any additional features. We're perfectly fine with what we're doing here. We're just doing the one thing. We're going to hit next. And we want to go next one more time. I believe at the create virtual switch page, select the Ethernet adapter. Make sure you select the Ethernet adapter here. You may have problems later on if you don't select it. Click next. And then it's saying, so on the virtual machine migration page, here's the virtual machine migration page. We want to select allow the server to send and receive live migrations. And it doesn't say to change anything from, so we're just going to use the credential support provider there. So that's fine. Click next. On the default page, browse default local disk, make a new folder. So what we want to do, default location for virtual hard disk files, we want to use the F drive, right? So this PC and virtual machine disk, click, and I think let's go ahead and make a new folder on that drive, like it says to in instructions 11, VMs. We'll call it VMs, like it says here. We're going to click OK. And then default location for virtual machine configuration files. I think we could also do the same here. Like I'm going to take all of this and I'm going to make it just F colon / Hyper-V. So it's going to create those two folders, we hope. Okay, click next. And then we're going to select restart destination server if it's needed. And then we're going to click install. While that's going, we'll check over here. Yeah, we're good. That's right, so we got the features installing here. It goes pretty quick. Once it gets done, we'll go back to Server Manager to double check to make sure that we've installed Hyper-V. This is probably the easiest of all the labs this time because we're just installing a service. But yeah, so there's a couple things along the way though. If you miss those in the original installation, or if you haven't done this installation yet and this is your first run through, make sure that you are checking the appropriate boxes and getting it up and running properly. So this is actually rebooting the machine and bringing up, it brings up hypervisor as part of the base operating system. Right, so Microsoft calls this type 1 hypervisor, and if you've read the book, right, type 1 hypervisor kind of manages the hypervisor manages everything on the computer. And then type 2 is like when you run like Oracle VirtualBox on top of like an operating system, and so you get into the operating system and you log into that. I really think, in my personal opinion, like they should call this one like type 1.5, because it boots with the OS, but you still have the OS controlling things. So I'm not 100% sure I would consider it a type 1. And that's just, again, my opinion, because it seems like it's a little bit on the convoluted side, right? It's not 100%, like we're not booting into hypervisor and then launching servers. We're booting into the operating system, which has hypervisor running, and then we're launching virtual machines. So, okay, so we need to log back in. So that's pretty quick, right? It's not a big deal. And once we're logged back in the Server Manager, if you click on Tools, you should be able to see once it's finished, I guess. Let's let it finish. Okay, so it says it succeeded. If you click on Tools, you should see a Hyper-V Manager, right? So Hyper-V Manager, right? We've got that done. We also see that we've got some red going on here. So I want to kind of take a look at that. There's a flag here with a notification. And that's just telling us that that was installed, so we don't need to worry about that one. What do we got going on here? Just I'm curious to see what this is doing. All right, so that's nothing of consequence. I'm not worried about that at all. But you can see Hyper-V is now installed here. So if I take a screenshot with like that highlighted, and I can see Hyper-V down here on the bottom, I know that Hyper-V has been installed. And that is it for this lab. You want to take that screenshot and turn that screenshot in.